So we have the variation A, where essentially user receives their regular email and proceeds with a regular, with the regular steps. And we have the version B, where essentially either the user receives slightly different emails with slightly different checkouts, and they get a freebie, totally for free, physical supplement to help them. And it performed significantly worse. We had worse results providing people with a gift than not providing them with a gift, which is weird because you give them objectively a better deal. It is objectively better for them to take the freebie, but apparently, and we talked about this as well, apparently it's very likely that people lose focus on what they came for. So they just get overwhelmed with the amount of things that we're actually giving them as an offer, that they get discouraged.
Hey guys, and welcome to the CEO After Dark show. Today I have with me Danas, a guy I've had the luck to work with for the last, I don't even know, like 3 years maybe at this stage. He's the head of email and CRM marketing of Kilo Health, a massively successful company in the health and wellness space. I have lost count of how many customers you have. I stopped counting at like 5 million customers. I don't know how many you have at the moment, but it's a massively successful company. And it frankly has some of the best performance marketers in the world, I believe. Danas, thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, George.
It's my pleasure, man. Do you mind just saying a few words about yourself and like what you do so that people have context?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm Danas. I currently manage the CRM team in the Kilo company. Yeah, essentially, what this entails is essentially we have a couple of people working with, like, as an internal service to service the products and their needs. The job varies quite a bit. As you know, we have quite many products, so there are a lot of different stages of each product. So, which means the requirements are very different for each product, and obviously, the niches are very different as well. From like gut health supplements, hair care, various interesting products. So the main responsibility is taking care of the products that needs the CRM service, and overseeing the email channel in general. I would say, like, any crisis, any areas for improvement, any just like internal things with that impact the whole company's email marketing as well. So, like, currently I have like a duality. I still have some responsibilities from my previous head of email marketing role, and I'm taking on new challenges and responsibilities in the CRM role. So I'm pretty excited about what's going to happen, what I'm going to do. I have a plan, and I intend on making an impact.
I believe that when we first met, that was a long time ago, but when we first met, you were more like an operator, right? Like you were managing the
Mm-hmm.
email marketing for a specific you are probably one of, if not the best at the job, and probably like that's why you grew rapidly in the roles. But you were not a manager back then, and I'm assuming that it's been a learning curve to like move away from being the one owning the work to being the guy that has the team or is responsible rather for the team and the results of the team, and like training them, maybe like mentoring them, giving them guidance, advocating for them, and all of that. Like what has the experience been there in terms of like the management layer of the work?
Oh yeah, like the delegation aspect of the job is has been super difficult for me. Like when you're in positions like this, you cannot do everything by yourself. You need to be able to delegate, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to work on. So yeah, the essentially the journey, in like after, especially after getting to know you, I think it's like it has been like my golden age of being an email marketer, a hands-on email marketer. Like the whole development of my role was first, I joined Kilo as a community manager, then got the chance to do a little bit of email marketing because of my prior work experience working for an email marketing tool. And then I got the chance to do actual email marketing and put my then theoretical knowledge to the test. I started doing email marketing. I got I think pretty good at it. And one of the best things that happened to me in the role was actually starting to work with you. We actually did some
I'm gonna blush.
very impactful things. Uh, yeah, like the things that you did, like back in the day, they are still live. They're like many years ago, like after that, like 3 years. A lot of the things are still live. So so yeah, like actually when we met, I was just the single person, working for essentially, I would say, a group of products. And then after I developed the email marketing, like the essential automation, the flow count, the essentially things that need to get done day by day grew. So we needed more people. So essentially we hired a couple of more people, started leading them, growing them as well. And then actually the head of email marketing position was vacant for 6 months. And I was a lead already in the original group of products, and I did not take a chance. I would think to myself, I'm good right now. I still have things to do. But then one evening, I just kind of thought that I have to, that I have to try. And when I did, what was funny then, my then boss to be, my future boss told me, "Yeah, we were waiting for you to apply." So yeah, I got the job, for the head of email marketing, and it has been all right. I have all the battle scars to show it. You know.
Just for everybody to have context, Kilo and Danas in particular, they have and still are doing quite advanced, I would say, email marketing. Um, I'm tempted to say the most advanced that I've seen thus far. There's quite a lot of personalization going on because the company uses a lot of quiz or assessment type of funnels where people basically provide data and then this data is collected and then it can be used in emails. The volume is extremely high. There's like millions and millions of subscribers. And the company also has a tremendous measurement system, which means that they are able to run A/B tests and actually measure the impact at a very granular level. So over time, like there has been a lot of learning, and I have. Dan has mentioned that I've helped the company, but also the company has helped me a lot. I've learned tons by working with the company and with people like Danas. One question that I have for you is, like, what would you say are some common mistakes that people do when it comes to email marketing? Like, what's kind of what you think is perhaps the most common mistake?
Hmm. I would say probably two. Probably two. I don't know which one is the more important one. But first of all, not taking care of your sender reputation, not tracking it. I know that tracking it is pretty difficult, and it's a black box. But the least that people can do is at least check your Google Postmaster scores. Your audience, like you're very likely to have at least like 50, maybe 70 to 80% of your audience Gmail. So not tracking your Google Postmaster and the IP reputation and spam report percentages there is dangerous, to be honest. You need to know. When it's free, you don't need to do almost anything. It's just like a one TXT record, and that's it. Set it up and start getting the data. And the second one that I want to also mention is I see that in the industry, even though like the talks about automation and segmentation have been like ongoing for like maybe 10 years, but there is still a large amount of companies doing email marketing like in a manual way,
Yeah.
like just doing a lot of manual sendouts, and that I think is counterproductive for results. At least the least you can do is automate what you want to do manually, so that you can reuse it for future people, and then you could actually run tests with your given ESP. Essentially, if you have automations, you have clear results. clear test results that you can make decisions based on them. So yeah, track your the deliver. I wouldn't say maybe deliverability results, but your sender reputation, and try to move towards automation. Save time, essentially do what matters most, which is automations.
What about those, let's say, more fancy things like personalization is like a very big one. People say, oh, you have to like have personalized content and all of that. And as I mentioned, Kilo is super well positioned for that. You collect a lot of data. You've probably done quite a lot of testing when it comes to that. I won't say the name, but I know there's even an actual product, a brand that is a personalized product. Like what people get differs based on what they answer. It's a physical product, like a book. So, have
Mhm.
you seen good results with personalization? What's your take on it?
Yeah, like also personalization has also become a buzzword, in a sense, I would say. So it's not a silver bullet. Don't personalize for the sake of personalization. You need to find out what's actually important and do that. Because I've seen loads of times, where people test, like, just the whole content of the email is personalization, and the hypothesis is personalization will lead to better revenue results. But it's not always the case. Personalization can also seem creepy, intrusive, especially for some brands, especially if you're dealing with very sensitive matters like privacy, or like sexual health and things like that. So personalization is good. It for a fact it can improve your results, but you need to test, essentially, to need to test, and test where it matters.
I think this test where it matters thing that you mentioned for me, like it has been probably the biggest learning I've had working with Kilo over time, because I think it's one of the things that you guys do exceptionally well, that you really focus on what drives the needle. I was talking to you about this before we started recording, but like we work, for example, with another quite big company, and they have a lot of revenue. They're a massive company, but they're focusing on things that don't ultimately move the needle. So they care a lot about the aesthetics, style over substance, basically, right? And I think the one thing that you guys are excellent at is like focusing on substance, like what drives results, which probably comes because you measure things so well. You have like a very complicated, not complicated, but very advanced setup, like with tracking everything, like every single variation, clean results for the tests. So for me, that's a very, very big one that I've learned.
Oh yeah, man. I also had the classic email marketer example happen to me. Like, I was working for I think 2 months to redesign the after purchase sequence for a particular product I was working for. Actually, when we were directly working with each other uh, for my original product, uh, we worked a lot to redesign the email sequences. Like, the design was objectively more readable, it was more beautiful, it was more up to date with what's on the website, and so on. When I ran tests, it flopped significantly. Tried to do more tests to not to essentially waste the effort that has been made, and to prove that it can have better results. But after a significant amount of testing, I just saw that I might as well, it not necessarily the design one, but the new content maybe one. Not the design did not make a significant impact to results. It made the results worse.
Yep.
So the design is not something that we focus on most of the time. The thing is, it, as you said elegantly, either it moves the needle or it doesn't.
I have worked with a lot of companies at this point, and I have tested this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And the reality is that, like, the design almost never impacts the performance significantly. It can have some effect, but it is almost never significant. And like, I've reached the point where I'm more thinking that having good designs is important for keeping our clients happy than keeping the clients of our clients happy. Like that's kind of the conclusion I've reached as an agency owner.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah,
Do you also want to mention, because I think it's super interesting, this you don't need to mention the brand obviously or the product, this test that you did recently where you strictly improved the offer that you were providing on the emails, but it didn't actually it actually lowered the
yeah.
results rather than because I also think that's quite interesting from a testing perspective.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this was the project that you also took up pro bono to help us with. Just the initial setup, and I think that's really crazy when you think about it. We have a test where we essentially give a freebie with a purchase, a physical gift that costs us money to package and ship and store and handle, as completely free. It's not like it's nothing shady, or there's no hidden subscriptions, no hidden fees. They have to do nothing except provide their address post purchase. So we have the variation A, where essentially user receives their regular email and proceeds with the regular, with the regular steps. And we have the version B, where essentially the user receives slightly different emails with slightly different checkouts, and they get a freebie, totally for free, physical supplement to help them. And it performed significantly worse. We had worse results providing people with a gift than not providing them with a gift, which is weird because you give them objectively a better deal. It is objectively better for them to to take the freebie, but apparently, uh, and we talked about this as well. Apparently, it's it's very likely that people lose focus on what they came for, so they just get overwhelmed with the amount of things that we're actually giving them as an offer, that they get discouraged, you know. And
Let's
that's
go back.
also, the yeah, I also wanted to mention this theory. I don't recall how it's called, but essentially I think maybe it's the paradigm of choice or something like that. You ever heard of it? Like why Apple gives like three choices or four choices with an iPhone? Because if they gave you 10 or 20, you would buy neither, even if one of them is the very best for you, but it's too much choice, it's too overwhelming, you just have this decision making fatigue. And how many times, I don't know how about you, but it's a constant issue for me. For example, if I want to shop for something either online or go to a physical store, if I don't choose and buy something in the first 15 minutes, even if I already have a huge shopping cart, like a digital shopping cart, I will stop the shopping activity. I will just close the phone or just go home because it's just too tiring, too overwhelming, to make the decisions, the choices, each step. So it may be connected to this, this test that we ran that last, but I guess we might not know, at this very moment.
It's hard to tell. It's a logical hypothesis. I don't recall the name of the cognitive bias that you mentioned, but I mean, I do know which could be that. By the way, this is a good segue to mention that obviously Danas does not really do CRO work, like he's the head of email and CRM, but you can clearly tell that he understands psychology, how like optimization and testing done, which is, I think, ultimately, and it's one of the things that I'm starting to look for in people I work with also in the agency, that like you have to know those like foundational things of like how people make decisions, like what can positively impact like the psychology of things basically. So buy some psychology books, guys. Like it really helps, like regardless of what you're doing, it really helps if you are in a performance type of or like any marketing role, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, and the principle that we were talking about earlier, it's the paradox of choice.
Paradox of
So yeah,
choice.
yeah. But I also wanted to add to this, like I think at the same time, even though CRO principles really do help, and it's very important for actual like if you're doing email marketing and you want to optimize, you have to know CRO. It's absolutely the same principles, just with a different twist. But at the same time, you just have to think what makes sense for your users, for your readers, for your abandoners or purchasers, what content makes sense at a given moment. So the right communication at the right time, essentially.
I want to go back to talking about you as an individual, not like so much as an email marketer. I want to understand, how did your life change after you became a manager?
Hmm. That's a tough one. So so obviously it's
I
more
changed my life.
responsibility.
No, I'm joking.
No, obviously I don't hate my life. Actually, a part of me loves it. A part of me like longs for the simpler times.
Yeah,
Actually, like as a person, I actually have been the happiest when I was uh, that when I was an email marketer and I was doing like just kick-ass things, reaching new heights, and everyone was happy with with their results. They were absolutely crazy. But it's very easy to measure and very easy to see the results. When you're a manager, it does not work like that.
yeah.
You're more responsible for like broader goals, broader targets, for people, for how they feel, what they want to do. You have to make an impact. That's I would say sometimes even just company wide. Not just for a given product, but company wide. So you have a lot of decisions. You have responsibility, and you have less like areas that you can like very accurately track and say, hey, I did a very good job, or hey, I'm sorry, I did a very bad job here, this will never happen again. So it's a little bit of new responsibilities, new challenges, new rewards, and new stressors. But it's an I would say it's an acquired taste. At the same time, even though I was the happiest, like 3 years ago, let's say, I would not go back. It's just a lot more interesting, to work for me, specifically, to work with broader things. So I don't know where
Any
this will take me, but
any
I hope
you know
I
like
hope
s-
yeah, yeah.
specific challenges or like problems that you faced like in the last let's say months, maybe
Months.
maybe year. Like I
Yeah.
don't want
So
to restrict it to months necessarily, but like
mhm.
recently, let's say.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So my last summer was really really tough. Um Even tougher than this summer. And it essentially what happened is we started integrating with a CDP, and we were essentially underprepared. We did not do our due diligence very well, and we did not anticipate the scope of the work that it will require. So what it led to is essentially a suboptimal integration, plus very good people leaving the company, plus obviously a whole lot of additional stress to let's say half of the company. So I would say that for people who are thinking about integrating with different tools that they have, if they have a working setup already, is take your time and try to give a rough estimate of how long you think it will take it, and be prepared for a scenario if it takes 50% more time. If you're doing a complicated setup, integrating with a CDP and so on, if you're just moving ESP to ESP, obviously that can be done way faster. And not everybody requires CDP and just complicated data aggregation and so on. I think actually on the contrary, most companies, you need to first get the basics right to move
Yeah.
on to other things.
Well, there has to be a clear reason to do this, by the way. Like that's I think the main thing, right? Like in my and I'm not talking about your experience, I'm talking about my experience here. What I've seen a lot happening in those conversations is that people are very easy to say, oh, it's the same as what you have but cheaper, or it's the same but has like this extra feature, or it's gonna be very easy to use. And it's almost never like that, like there's maybe some hidden cost that you didn't see, maybe the team doesn't know how to use it, maybe some feature is not quite working the same. So it is actually a big step to change technology. And in my eyes, at least, like the number one thing is to ensure that the people that do the work believe in the new platform. Because if they don't believe in the platform, then it's not gonna work, right? Like they are the ones doing the work. So like you, the decision
Precisely.
maker, the big pants type of guy that like decides, you might think it's a good idea, but if the guys doing the work don't think it's a good idea, then probably you should listen to them because it's gonna fail.
Yeah, like after this whole integration thing, like I almost have like a new rule in life. I'm very skeptical of things that I did not know I need. You get what I'm trying to say? Like if there's
Yeah.
someone approaches me either personally or as a Kilo employee with something that I did not know that we need, or there's something that seems just too good to be true, my default response is extreme skepticism. So that I think that's the right way to look at new things. That you're not even sure that you need. Just faced with skepticism, if it passes your tests, your thought tests, then great. But if not, don't get too excited.
What I like about you, because I mean we have a personal relationship also, is that like you act, at least as far as I can tell, you actively take time to kind of distress. Like you like go to nature, like you have your dog that you like spend time with your girlfriend, etc. Like, is there any advice maybe that you have for people that are working in the tech industry, which I think is probably one of the most stressful industries there are? Like, how can you kind of like manage all of this responsibility, things constantly changing, etc.?
hmm I think I do. Like what works for me is having this duality. I am not the output of my work. Like I need to feel good regardless of how things at work are. It's the thing also I've been struggling with because it has been impacting my life way too much. The ups and downs, the roller coasters. So you need to have this separation, and ideally, it's also a separation of space. So if you work from home, you do not have the space between your stressors and your leisure, let's say. So you need to go out of your home at least after the work ends. So what I've been doing this summer actually is I've been doing quite a lot of remote work. I'm actually in my summer house as we speak, and I'm trying to like live at the same time as work, not necessarily just not treat evenings like they're just like a pause between work, but actually live, which sounds very primitive, but it's not so easy to do because most of the time previously I've been like, no, I don't want to do this thing after work because I just don't want to get too distracted before tomorrow because I have this meeting or this thing that I need to do. But then life passes you by, and years go by. So yeah, and my number one tip is don't get too connected with your don't connect your personal life to your work life. Maintain them separately. That way you can maintain like peace in the
Man,
evenings.
this thing that you said about the evenings not being a break from work, like it hit me like a sledgehammer because I can relate to treating my evenings like that. You know me, like I'm a workaholic. I work like I wake up and I work, I like work all day, work like I work all day basically. So it's a very very big one, and I've started tracking my health metrics like using Ura. It's like a wearable that shows like how your heart rate, how stressed you are, and all of that. And it actually takes a huge toll on you. Like when I work every single day, like maybe even on the weekend, my metrics go like down like crazy. It's like as if I'm not I stop functioning basically over time. And then maybe you take like a few days and you rest and like, I don't know, you eat good food, you do something fun, and it goes up back again. And the funny thing is that when that happens, you actually like do more. Like even from a productivity standpoint, you become more productive when you put a stop at work. And it's been difficult for me to do because I always get guilty when I'm not working, because I'm always thinking, if I don't work, how can I expect my staff to be working? Like, that's kind of how I have it in my mind.
Hmm.
And there's
Hmm.
something good about this. It's perhaps admirable in a way, but at the same time, it's exactly as you say, you need to separate your work life and your personal life, because if you don't, your work life ends up suffering. Even it's not just that you sacrifice from your personal life, but you stop functioning well. Your brain like doesn't think. If all you do is do, like it's like they say, like the best ideas come when you're in the shower, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to also, to touch on the subject, like, these periods that we all have, easier periods, tougher periods, or periods where we're absolutely stretched, but they cannot go for a long time without, having consequences on you. So, especially if I'm feeling stretched and I'm already dealing with loads of things, and something breaks or some new unexpected situation happens where feel like I need to know what I do, but I don't. These kind of situations.
Yeah.
These are the situations that I hate. Where I feel like I should know what to do, but I don't. Um, I I recently found out that just taking a break works. Like, just if you don't know what to do, and if you can, make yourself a coffee. Go take your dog out for a 10-minute walk. He'll be happy. You'll be happy. And just think about it a little bit, or even better, don't think about it, and just view it with fresh eyes once you come back after 10-15 minutes. And it kind of helps, things to settle. And if you work, I wouldn't say 24/7, but if you work at least 6 days per week, obviously that's going to impact how you make your decisions. They're
Yeah.
not always going to be as optimal as you would make them if you were well rested. So yeah, rest. If not for your personal life, I think rest is very important for your work life as well. If you want to frame it like that.
1000%. What's the because we will be wrapping up soon. Like, what's kind of the number one tip, advice, or like maybe message you want to share with listeners, that like your message for posterity? Like, it can be an advice, it can be uh, like a quote that you want to share with people. Like, what would you say to people so that they remember this episode?
So if you want to remember this episode, I would just like for people to just have one takeaway. When you're doing email marketing, do not change anything without doing a test. Like we've discussed in this episode before, you can have an objectively better deal, better solution, better anything, and it can still fail. You need to test, because if you don't test, you don't know where the impact comes from, and you lose touch with your audience. So yeah, test, test, test.
That's a good one. All right, Danas, thanks so much for taking the time. I think it was a really good one.
It was a pleasure, man. It was really a pleasure.